The definitive guide on the weapon finish is exactly that. It's a free, 135-page PDF that you can download from the link in this video's description. Although part of it is a guide on how to make your own skins, you don't need to have an interest in that to find this book fascinating. You don't even need to have played CSGO. And I can't think of anyone who wouldn't find at least part of this read entertaining and informative. And I've thoroughly enjoyed reading through all of it, and chatting with its maker, Centauri. He is a skin maker whose SG553 Atlas design got featured in the Chroma 3 case back in 2016. He's been working on this guide, on and off, for almost 2 years. He made it because he couldn't believe that nobody else had, and he's done an excellent job of condensing such a large, sprawling topic down into a single, handy guide. And it's made to such a high quality. The presentation is top-notch, like something you'd expect to see in a Final Hour storybook. Having spent years making this, he just had to decide on how to release it, and whether to charge for it. But he ended up being like, let's just release it all, to everyone, for free. Though there is a donate button on the website if you'd like to show your appreciation. You might expect it to contain a guide on how to make your own skins, and it does, right at the very beginning. But I think the rest of the book will be of more interest to most people, since Chapter 2 covers the sort of stuff you'd otherwise only know from having played the game, stuff like what determines a skin's grade and rarity, and how their appearance is affected by their wear level, and so on. And even if you know all of this already, it's still fascinating to see it put into words. Then there's really useful advice on how to keep a weapon skin readable but not too shiny, dark or colourful, or how low violence versions are needed to comply with China's rules about this sort of stuff. And then the third and final chapter I think gets even more interesting again, by explaining the terms and scams you'll encounter on the Steam community market, and showing what makes some knife patterns more valuable than others, which I think most of us are sort of aware of but probably don't know all of the specifics. There are a number of pages dedicated to specific knife finishes which I thought were particularly interesting, and then it goes on to analyse what's been submitted to the workshop, and all of the stuff you need to know about getting your skin submitted and included in the game. And then to finish off the guide is a number of interviews with successful skin makers, an inspiring section for anybody wanting to learn from the greats. Even if you aren't interested in making your own skins, I'd still recommend scanning through the first chapter. It's not an overly wordy guide. In fact, it explains many things with just a few simple understandable images. I have no excuse for being unclear about certain parts of the skin making process, but I admit that I still had some questions that I didn't even know to ask. But this guide answers them all in just a few short pages of extremely informative pictures and diagrams. It's brilliant. The only thing it doesn't cover is how much you can expect to earn from getting a skin featured. This is a very hush-hush topic. I don't believe skin makers are allowed to reveal this information, and even after having spoken to all of them, I still don't know how much they earn. But it seems like it massively depends on stuff like which case it's featured in and how long ago that was. I'd say that if you manage to get your skin featured in CSGO, then you're talking 6 figures. And it's a sum that continues to pay out for years to come. So yeah, I'm seriously impressed with this guide, and I feel that you should check it out because I can't think of why you wouldn't. It's currently very up to date and relevant, but as somebody who likes to document stuff, I know that it will have value in 5, 10 or 50 years' time, as being the best documentation on the phenomenon that is community-made skins in a billion-dollar game, and the society that builds up around that premise. He said that it took a long time to get the technical chapter right. He worked hard to get the order of the pages just so to ensure that people had prerequisite knowledge from previous pages for what came later, and he said that he ended up getting design fatigue from staring at the pages for too long, but is happy with this style of presentation. He intentionally omitted some stuff. He talks about how you're not allowed to use copyrighted material in your skins, at which point I thought he was going to mention some examples of when skin makers had done that and the repercussions they faced from doing so, but he avoided that, telling me that he wants this guide to be a celebration of the game, showing Valve and the community in a positive light, which I think is very respectable of him. But as a result of this, the first 2 chapters can feel rather dry, as they cover the more technical side of things. So I'm pleased the 3rd chapter exists, which is more about the community and how the process of skin making has been shaped by people, and how tastes have evolved over time. When he started out on the guide, he hadn't even intended to cover this, but I'm pleased he did, as it complements the rest of the book nicely. The interviews in particular are a great inclusion, as they really hammer home the point that, at the end of the day, behind every great skin is a real person with a passion and drive to make things. More guides need to end on such a motivating note. So once again, I urge you to check it out in this video's description. He hopes that by releasing it for free that it'll be as useful to the community as possible, and while it was a huge lot of work to make, he says that seeing people enjoying it has made it all worthwhile.